Welcome back from the break, everyone. Thank you for sticking with me for another episode of Independent Thought. For my guest today, I am joined by Liora Sponko. Thank you for coming on Independent Thoughts today. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, you and I kind of connected over Instagram a few months back, and I was really intrigued by, like some of the things that you were telling me that you do. I'd never actually encountered an empowerment coach before, but it did sound incredibly interesting. Can you just tell me a little bit about what exactly is an empowerment coach and why did you, decide that that's what did you wanted to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you may have heard of different types of life coaches. So essentially, I'm a certified life coach, but I focus my title on empowerment coach because I help folks bring awareness to when they're not empowered, when they're in fear or feeling sad, or when they're frustrated or not reaching their goals, how to shift and transform that into power and possibility. So I'm really focused with my clients on their own empowerment process and what's going to help them manifest their dreams, fulfill on their goals, and really feel good throughout the process. So the empowerment coach piece really seems to resonate with the work that I do. And I also do mindset work and spiritual coaching as well. So I provide lots of different types of coaching to my clients.
Absolutely. That's something that I kind of like touched on a little bit, last season when I had, another guest come on who's, goes by the name of the Flex Coach. I'm always very intrigued by people who are trying to like push a more like positive mindset. And so what I'm curious about is, was there like a moment in particular in your life that kind of like led to you wanting to choose this path for yourself?
Yeah, it has. And I just listened to that podcast yesterday as I was preparing to come on. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an episode that really relates to my work. And I love that episode. So I think my whole life, I've been very self-reflective. Like I'm always looking within, and that's something that's been constant throughout my own life. And someone invited me to enroll in a personal development program about 10 years ago. And I really jumped at the opportunity because again, I'm always looking to improve myself. And I thought this was just something that I was going to do for my own life. Like, how can I bring more, awareness to what my blocks are and to resistance, whether it's related to relationship or work. I was always like looking for that kind of guidance and coaching and support. So I got coaching in a program. And then I was listening to a podcast that, he was talking about, doing what you're passionate about. And he said, I'm passionate about personal development. And so that's why I'm a personal development coach. This is what I'm passionate about. And I realized that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I read books constantly on personal development. These are the podcasts that I listen to. This is just the work when people, even friends and colleagues that I know come to me and feel like they can talk to me about what they're dealing with. And I realized that this is just what I love to do. Why not do this professionally? So just kind of that opened up my path to really taking this on professionally. So I coach clients one-on-one programs. I do group programs. I also love doing workshops for clients, whether they're entrepreneurs, artists, anyone that wants to move forward in their goals, but also do it in a way filled with joy, and really live wholeheartedly. So those are the type of work I provide. And then I also do keynote speaking, and I've done that recently. So, well, actually before the pandemic, I did that. And so I love coaching and speaking and really helping people see something new for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly powerful. One of the things that kind of led me to doing this podcast was something similar in an effect. It's just like wanting to channel my energy into something that already I like resonated with, something that was powerful for me, something that just felt that I didn't have to motivate myself to do it. It just felt so natural. So that's really great that's, kind of like how this became something for you. So when people do decide to come to you, and hire you as their coach, what are some of the issues that people come to you with? Is it more like, career? Is it about relationships? Is it about something else? So like, what is the most common thing that people come to you for?
All of the above. You know, when I first started, a lot of coaching programs encourage you to find your niche. And I started working with artists and creatives, and I still do. And I love working with artists and creatives around helping them build their business or helping them connect to the creative practice more regularly. And so those are my initial clients. And, you know, and I had clients, you know, for example, right now I have a client that when we started off and she said, I love making art, but I'm not a salesperson. I hate doing the business side. I hate selling. And through our coaching process, we really realized a lot of the blocks and fears that were stopping her. It's not that she couldn't sell. It was that she was afraid of putting herself out there. So a lot of my clients deal with that fear of vulnerability, you know, fear of really like, you know, putting yourself out there, trying not to be too salesy, all the different concerns that showed up. And honestly, last week I had a call with her and she said, I am a salesperson. I did this show. I sold more than I ever have. I'm selling online. And it's just amazing to see that transformation when we think, I can't do something. And then you do the internal work and you realize you can. So that I realized that my work doesn't just translate to artists and creatives. Some people were coming to me, or other entrepreneurs were coming to me around other goals that they had around building their business or trying to get clear on what they're passionate about, where should they focus. I have clients that focus on relationship and trying to manifest love. And so all of this work, it's really translatable into anything, you know, if anyone that's willing to do the internal work, to look within around what do we truly want in our lives? What are we passionate about? How do we want to express ourselves in our lives? Really getting clear on the vision of what we want. Then looking at what's in the way. What are the blocks? What's the resistance? And then number 3, it's like, am I willing to transform it? Am I willing to face the fears and blocks so I can not only produce the results that I want, but actually attract and manifest what I want? And so I really believe that, like what you said, when we show up with purpose and passion, what we do isn't hard. It becomes really fun, and then we can manifest what we want. So I've really expanded my clientele to work with all sorts of folks that are interested in doing this type of work.
And that's honestly amazing. I think the part where she says, you know, like, oh, I'm a salesperson now. You know, I remember personally watching a TED Talk. This was years ago. And it was it was a woman who was speaking about getting into a car accident where afterwards she had actually, I think, had regressed from like a cognitive standpoint because of the traumatic brain injury. And then she just felt very discouraged about trying to like continue with her passion in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess eventually she was just like found the idea that she had to just keep faking it more and more until she eventually just realized that she was no longer faking it. She had become the thing that she was faking. And so I think that's an incredibly powerful like testament. But the thing I want to ask you next is, you know, besides, you know, self-doubt, you know, because obviously that is something that we all deal with. What is the most reoccurring issue that you find with people who come to you seeking help?
Related to self-doubt, I mean, the fear of failure and, you know, fear of judgment, you know, fear of putting yourself out there. A lot of us, you know, want to hide, and we are afraid to share our gifts because of self-doubt, honestly. And when you keep digging like underneath the fears, you see the self-doubt, you see a lot of, you know, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy of what I want. You know, fear of like what I want isn't possible. It's not for me. I'm not worthy of love. So it really can go pretty deep. And I like to go deep with my clients if they choose to do that.
Right.
Because when they have awareness and really what's going on, then they can be free from it. Because so often the case, we want to say, I can't have what I want because I don't have time. I can't have what I want because I don't have enough money. You know, we have all these, what, you know, I call, just to simplify it, excuses.
Right.
And we procrastinate and we avoid and we pretend we don't really want it. And, you know, we hide. And so there's all sorts of reasons why we don't take action on what we want, and we don't believe what we want is possible. So the work I do with clients is to look at the fears and then underneath those not enough stories of what's really getting in the way. So they're freed up from it, because when what we resist persists. So if we're not facing it, we're going to keep operating in that way. But when we can shine a light on it, it can dissipate, and shame falls away, and any wrongness falls away. And then we can, really step in to our own power and purpose and really show up the way we want to show up, self-expressed and really full of possibility and inspired to take action. So it's an interesting journey from that, that place of self-doubt to power and possibility is really possible. And honestly, there's days that I have to really practice this work for myself. Like,
right.
Like there's days we just wake up like feeling in a funk, or I don't feel like it, or I don't know if I was nervous about doing this podcast, and like, aren't we always like, it's like that self-doubt shows up often for a lot of us, and just like to normalize it. And, and so that just building our toolbox that, we don't have to be stuck that way, and that we have the ability to transform ourselves.
Right. And the insecurities are strong within us all. And I have to imagine that helping people navigate through them can be incredibly time consuming. Is there really like a one size fits all approach to helping people deal with their insecurities, or is it really like a case by case basis?
Such a good question, because it's something I've thought a lot about as I do one-on-one coaching. I've done group programs and workshops, right? So you have all sorts of people, especially like the groups and workshops where you have all sorts of people in the room with you, and you see things click for people in different times and in different ways. So I have always thought, okay, what's the best formula to present information? And so I have all sorts of kind of workbooks and tools that I provide clients. Like here's an outline. Like I have a template called Empower Hour. It's like, here are the steps you can take when you're in a funk to like find freedom, right? So I have all sorts of tools and templates, and everybody's on their own path. And that's what I love about this work, is that it really is an individual journey. And my belief is that we have the answers within us, and it's about peeling the layers, right? And we all have different sorts of layers to peel, and we're all in different places on our journey, and there is no final destination. So it really is an individual path. So really, working with people where they're at, and the coaching process, I'm not telling folks what to do or how to do it. I'm asking questions. I'm reflecting back things that I hear. I use my intuition a lot to see like what's needed, how can I support this person, and and see what unfolds. So it really is a unique individual path. And at the same time, we can learn from each other, and that we all have something to share. And so I think it's a combination.
Yeah. And the one thing that I kind of wanted to ask you about, because obviously there's so many different ways to approach helping people, navigate through all of these different like negatives in their lives, or their perceived negatives, right? I know that one of the important things that can be done is just like goal setting, just like focusing on what it is that we're trying to achieve in our lives. And so do you believe that there's like a correlation between, I guess, telling yourself what it is that you're trying to achieve and what others would call the law of attraction? Like, do they intermix at all? Like, and do you implement that when you're speaking with people?
Yeah, I do a mix, because, well, there are certain clients that really like to have clear goals, and they like to write it all out. And actually each week we set goals for the week. So goal setting can be very important for clients, and I do like to bring it into my work. And there's also something to be said about surrender, letting go of control, letting go of when it's going to happen, sometimes even letting go of how it's going to happen. So a lot of times for clients, we will really set a strong vision. What, in say 3 to 5 years, what do you want? What does it look like? But more importantly, what does it feel like to have that? And they really connect to an inspired place, really, empowered and excited and joyful of like, oh my gosh, if I published that book I wanted to publish or had the romantic relationship of my dreams, like really feeling what that feels like. And I tell my clients, okay, you don't have to wait 3 to 5 years to feel that way. Like, what if you can feel that way now? Like, take on your future vision, like now, that you don't have to wait. And what if you were to show up with that joy and inspiration and love and excitement, and you show up like that every day? Imagine what you can manifest and attract. And I completely believe, and I've seen it in my own life, of when I'm empowered and connected and aligned and really like clear with like who I am, and I get all the other stuff out of the way. It's really, we talk about like getting ourselves out of the way so we can show up authentically. That's when things start to attract. It's suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, you've like attracted your partner or the job of your dreams. And it really does happen. So, I'm a firm believer in, yes, put it out there of what you want, but take action from an inspired, aligned place. If you're going to have goals, I'm not a big fan of the hustle. And I get hustle can sometimes be important for folks that want to get stuff done. But for me, it's about the energy you bring into it. And you can work hard and still be joyful and inspired. And from that place, when you take aligned and inspired action, is when you're going to actually produce the results that you want.
That's an interesting take. Could you contrast that for me really quickly? What is the difference between the aligned and inspired point of view versus what you're characterizing as the hustle? I'm really curious about how you differ those.
So let's say the hustle is, I have to meet this goal by the end of the month. And so I have that in my calendar. And that means I have to take this action and this action and this action every single day. And I'm really stressed out about it because I'm afraid I'm not going to reach those goals. And if I don't reach those goals, then I'm afraid of what my partner's going to say or what my boss is going to say. And I'm going to be really afraid of judgment, of what people are going to think about me. And I'm going to be really upset. And I'm going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to start questioning. And then I start questioning, do I even want this anymore? Because I don't think I can really accomplish it, right? You see, like all of these disempowered thoughts and stories that show up when we try to control situations and we don't feel good about the work that we're doing. So that to me is that like hustle and like, I have to make a certain financial goal in order to prove my worth, right? So that kind of place, it's all to me built on fear and all of these stories about like, I don't feel worthy. Does that resonate?
Absolutely.
Versus
yes.
Like, I'm inspired about my goal. I wake up, I'm inspired to take action. I'm excited about what I'm working on. I'm making a difference for people. I'm lit up every day. People can see the energy in my face and in my body language. And I'm just so excited about what I'm up to and to be of service. And this really feels aligned with who I am. And it feels aligned with what I'm meant to do, and like that type of energy. So to me, like, do you hear that distinction?
It's very distinct. Yeah, you're operating from a place of inspiration versus a place of fear.
Yes.
And yeah, that definitely resonates with me. I have definitely been on both sides of that coin. I've been on one side more than the other. So I definitely
Yeah.
understand what that's like. I think one of the last things I want to ask you is inevitably, I think what really keeps people from achieving what they want in their lives, it's not always the initial push. Because I feel like a lot of people have that initial push. They're like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to try this. But inevitably, we all face adversity. Yeah. That is the number one consistency whenever you're chasing whatever it is that you want. You're going to face some kind of adversity. You're probably going to face it multiple times. So the question that a lot of people end up running into is, how do I recover from this adversity? And a lot of people for one reason or another, sometimes they give up. So like, how do you help people push through those adverse times? Like what is the message?
Yeah. Well, number one, it's human. Like you said, it happens to all of us and it can happen multiple times a day. So I think number one, like it's a part of the human experience. And so for me, it's normalizing it. Like there is nothing wrong with resistance. There is nothing wrong with any fear that's showing up. There's nothing wrong with those not enough stories that show up, like the I'm not worthy story or the self-doubt, to really let go that it's wrong. Because when we think it's wrong is when we want to hide, when we don't want to talk about it, and then we let the adversity run the show.
Right.
But instead, you're like to give space to it. So whether you're talking to a coach like me, talking to a friend, someone you trust, coaching yourself. I really believe in like self-coaching and just talking to yourself, whether it's in meditation, on a walk, or just when you're, sitting and chilling out, of like, oh my gosh, what am I really dealing with here? Instead of like blaming like your boss, blaming a family member, like letting go of blaming like over there, to look within and say, oh my gosh, I'm in a funk. My self-doubt is showing up. I'm afraid, and giving that space to breathe, because like I said, it can't survive when we shine a light on it. And honestly, sometimes just that will help dissipate. Honestly, sometimes just the awareness, letting go of wrongness and shame will really help it dissipate. And other steps is just like to do the transformational work. And, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about how we can reprogram our brains. And it's actually scientifically proven of creating new neural pathways, because when we're in a funk, oftentimes that's based on our past thoughts and past emotions. And so it's kind of like our default way of being. So as we bring awareness, and we can like shift into new possibilities and shift our thoughts and those neural networks and patterns of like, okay, what else is possible? How else can I show up? Not only in our minds, but how else do I want to feel? And it takes something, but the more we practice it, the more fluent we can get at it. So anytime we're in a funk, sometimes it might take a few hours, but other times it might just take a few minutes to kind of shift and show up of like, oh my gosh, I really want to connect to my future vision. That's going to inspire me. I really want to connect to my passion, purpose. That's going to inspire me. And then we can kind of shift how we show up and take new action and produce new results that way.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There is, unfortunately, the purest remedy to dealing with adversity is just to do your best to stick with it. I mean, honestly, truthfully, in my opinion, there is always going to be challenges throughout life, but anything that is worth it, is always worth the work to stay involved and stay engaged. So the last thing that I want to ask you here is, what is your message to people who might be interested in having an empowerment coach, but they are still kind of unsure about whether or not they want to take that leap of faith and, get involved in something like this?
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of tuning into our internal compass, which is our intuition. I use it a lot in a lot of decisions that I make. And the more I pay attention to it, the louder and the stronger it is, so I can hear it better. Because sometimes we can't hear it. Sometimes it's like our fear is saying like, or the scarcity mindset, is saying like, I can't afford a coach. It won't really work. This is not possible for me, right? And to realize like, oh, that's the fear. That's the internal dialogue. That's the chatter. Versus like, what do I really desire? Like, oh my gosh, I really want to reach that goal. I really want to manifest my romantic relationship. I really want to manifest that perfect job or write that book, and whatever you want. And so connecting really to your heart and what you want, like to me, that's part of the intuitive process. So that's number one, is like just getting clear for yourself. What do you truly want versus like, what is the fear saying? Kind of separating that out. And then also, using your intuition to connect to the right coach, because there are so many coaches out there. And I've hired a lot of coaches for different purposes. And I found coaches, honestly, on podcasts, like this, just listening to interviews on podcasts. I found coaches, and I've signed up for the ones that my intuition said, this is the right match. What they're saying resonates with who I am, what my heart desires, what I want. I just trust my gut on this one, because sometimes we overthink it. But again, when we listen within, we'll find the right match and find the right coach. And so I encourage folks to explore that. If you think a coach might support you, listen to interviews with coaches or hop on their websites. If what I'm saying resonates with you, then hop on my website and book a free call with me, and we can chat more about what you want and how you can get that. So it's just an intuitive journey that I'm really excited to talk to folks about, like what they want in their lives.
Absolutely. Liora, thank you so much for coming on today. I really do appreciate it. Could you just tell everyone really quickly where they can find you on social media or online? Like, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Liora Sponko. And also my website is liorasponko.com.
All right. Well, simple enough. And for people who are interested, those links will be available in the episode description below. So just go ahead and click on the description and you'll be able to see those links available right there. All right. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. I hope to have you back on in the future. And everyone else, we're going to be taking one more quick break. And when we come back, you'll have my final thoughts of the day. Stay tuned.